Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about kicks. More specifically, how to get kicks tight and punchy. Right here I have an example of a client I've been working with recently a lot. And his kick right here it does have a long tail that we don't really want to have here. So if you just listen to it, almost has like a reverb tail or something. It didn't really work in the mix all too much. So there's a couple of ways we could get rid of it. One easy way would be to just cut it away. Then put in a little fade, maybe give it a little more. Something like that. I would say that's the cleanest way, but it's a lot of work. You would have to put it probably into a sampler or something and then resample the whole thing. You might not want to do that. So what are the other options you have? Let's loop this thing right here. So the best way, I would say, if you don't want to cut it, is to use a Transient Master or a Transient Shaper, basically. I will use Transient Master. Transient Master right here. It does exactly that. We can look over the gain because it's just if it gets quieter, you can kind of work it with the gain, but that's normally you don't really need it. So we have two knobs right here. It's attack and sustain, and it does exactly what it says it does. You can push the sustain or you can cut it quite heavily, and this is what I'm trying to do right now. So let's just listen to it while I'm dialing it in. Now this is super extreme. I wouldn't use it to 100% normally, but just to show you, it does work really well. Let's put it right there, somewhere around minus 50% or something. That's great. Also, we can use a little bit of the attack. I'll also overdo it at first and then I dial it in where I think it's good. So yeah, I don't want to overdo it with that, really. So we want to keep the general characteristics of the kick still. So just adding a little bit of attack of about 10% is awesome most of the time. And reducing the sustain, especially here, quite heavily, does a lot of good here. The next thing we can do is to grab a glue compressor, which is basically an emulation of the SSL bus compressor. And we put the attack right to the maximum, which is 30 milliseconds. And then put the threshold down and see what happens. Kind of work it, make up, get back the volume. Also put on a soft clipping to get nice harmonics. If you want to do that, you could also just lower the input volume if you do not want it to color anything, but it does have a nice color, so it's good. Yeah, what we did here is to add a little bit more punch, a little bit more attack. Sounds great. Maybe that's a little heavy still. We could reduce it quite a bit as well. Yeah, just around there. That's good. So next thing we could do now is to put in an EQ. I will use the standard Ableton EQ, but best idea is to have a dynamic EQ like the Pro Q3. Works best with that one. I love it. I just don't have it on the system right there, but I normally use the Pro Q. But we can get quite far with that one as well. So in the frequency spectrum, probably like the lowest 30 hertz to nothing. You don't really need that all too much. So when we look at the spectrum right here while we're playing, you will see the lowest mountain, if you want to call it that. That's our fundamental. Also another way to find out very fundamental is if we know the key or the root note of the kick, and from that we know the hertz as well. So we see it's right there. Basically where I'm at already, at around 30 hertz or something. Now if you take away that, it already gets a little bit more punch because there's more space that the kick can fill up of the audible spectrum. Most speakers won't even go below 30 really, even high-end speakers. So cutting a little bit of the low end is a good idea most of the time. Now what we can do is to boost the Q, which is what makes things pointy, if you want to call it that. And with that we can give it a lot more thump. I think this kick already has quite a bit of thump, but just for demonstration purposes I will still do it. Do you hear that? Way too much, of course, but just a little bit. That's good. Another thing we can do is to take out a little of the, maybe 200 to 500 hertz range to clean it up a little bit more. Right there. And also we want to boost the click. Right there. Just a bit. Right. Sounds great, doesn't it? Okay, one more thing that I want to show you. In case you do not want to have a Transient Master, you can use the regular compressor as well. And this won't work as well, but it gets the job done fairly alright as well. So first thing is we want to push the attack way beyond to like 300, 400 milliseconds. It depends on the kick, but somewhere around there. You gotta listen to it. Then we want to have the ratio far down, like almost a limiter at this point. And then we turn off the makeup gain and just reduce the threshold and see what's happening. Let's turn off the Transient Master for that. See how it mostly attacks the tail and not the attack? That's because of the high attack. Also we could reduce the release as well a bit. If it feels like it spills over to the next kick, if it takes too long to get back to zero reduction, then we want to decrease the release. Boost a little bit the output gain. Not too much, just a bit. And if you look on the spectrum right here, we will see that it mostly only gets to the tail. See how the initial attack will not be harmed too much by it. Now we can drive it parallel as well if you don't want this effect to be so overpowering. Oopsie. Yeah, something like that. That does the job as well, a bit. Not as good as a Transient Master, but it does do it. Yeah, but Transient Master, that's the way to go, honestly. Right, so those are the 3 things that I would do mostly if a kick doesn't sound as it should sound, basically. And let's A/B it with all on and all off. Well, sounds good to me, honestly. So I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from it. If you did, you can come by later as well, because I will do a lot more of these videos in the future. So hope to see you around. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Goodbye.